Um, but okay, so let's get into it, right? The R.A.M. relationship attachment model, like I said, it helps you understand the process. It maps out the process of actually getting into a relationship, right? And what are the stages? And he breaks it down into five simple stages, right? Stages or factors, however you want to look at it. And they all kind of flow into each other, just like this. And it goes from knowing to trusting to relying to committing to touching. That's five. Knowing, trusting, relying, committing, touching, right? And it all flows in that direction. But the more you study it, the more I've studied it, I also realize that there are interconnections as well. And I think that should be for a more like detailed video on that and just like what I've been noticing. But like seeing these factors and thinking about it, it's like this seems so much like common sense. Like this isn't anything revolutionary, but I've never thought about it this way or brought it to my dating experience, right? And I'm sure you're probably in the same position where you're just like, this sounds kind of like common sense, but like we all know, like it's not about common sense. It's about sometimes you just need someone to actually show you something and then also show you evidence of it working. And he's definitely done that, right? Like he's done multiple like trainings and studies of teaching people how to use this, and it significantly has impacted their outlook with love, right? And so if you think about it, right, it's like when you get to know someone, then you can actually get to trust them. And when you get to trust someone, you get to the point where you can actually rely on them and you know they have your back. And when you feel like someone does have your back, it makes it so much easier to commit and vice versa. And when you know someone is committed, right, and continues to do so, you feel safe enough being vulnerable to be touched and to touch, right? That is the summary of his thought process with it. And I thought this just makes so much sense, right? Like it just makes a lot of sense, right? So with this is almost like you're not almost like this is your map to hiring someone. Like I really like thinking about dating now as it is a hiring process for your most intimate relationship because you're hiring someone, right? Like you pretty much have a role, you have a description of what is in that role, you have expectations, you have things that you intend to give back as a reward, and you're pretty much going to the market with that. Exact same thing with a job, right? But a lot of times we don't take it that serious. Like we take if you're on the employee side, you probably take like going to an interview more seriously than going on a date. And vice versa. Like if you're in HR and you're watching this, like you probably take like hiring a candidate for your job more serious than when you're trying to hire someone, when you're trying to find someone who you're going to actually let impact a significant amount of your life, right? Like this is not an employee, this is not a job. This is a person you are going to be in bed with, right? This is the person you're going to spend a significant amount of your limited time with. This is the person you're going to be swapping fluids and DNA with. It's not a joke. And we can look at some more stats just to understand just how deep some of this stuff is, right? And why you need to take it more seriously and you need to bring more intention to it, right? Like, what? Divorcees are 23% more likely to die earlier than married people. I don't think you've heard that, have you? Third marriages have the highest divorce rate, 73%. Clearly, people are not learning what they need to learn, right? People are making the exact same mistakes. Why would you meet someone who has been with like three people and all of them, you line them up, you can't tell the difference. Sometimes both physically and a lot of it behaviorally, like they have all the same negative traits that continue to be in that person's blind spot, right? 40% of new marriages include a partner who is remarrying. It's like that's crazy turnover. Like people aren't staying in there. And it kind of like of course people have their own different situations, but it's just like it's almost like we run into this and then when we get in, then we find out, oh shit, I this doesn't work for me. It's like, shouldn't we find that out before we go in? Maybe, maybe. I don't know. I notice there's also like there's also just different types of people, right? It's like I'm the type of person who like before I make a purchase, like let's say like before I buy a new phone or like a new laptop or something, like I will spend a significant amount of time like doing my research and just understanding what are the features, what are the pros and cons, what am I comparing this to, what is the benchmark, all of that. Now I've learned through this framework how to bring that into the process of choosing who I let into my life and who I let into my heart, right? Now, if you shrug at divorce, no problem. Cool. Let's look at some crazier stats. US crime reports tell us that 1 in 5 homicide victims are by one in 5 homicides pretty much are done by an intimate partner. That's 20%. That's crazy. Like this is the person that you love and they kill you. That's insane. The CDC tells us 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience intimate partner violence, IPV. There's a whole category for this just because of how common it is. Like one in so if I walked past 3 women, one of them is probably experiencing some kind of, you know, some form of violence from an intimate partner. If I walk past 4 men, one of them, do you get that? Like if you walk past just 3 people, like you walk past 3 people all the time, statistically, one of them is going through it. You might be one of these people, right? And that's honestly why I'm making this video, right? Because it's very easy to blame yourself, and I don't think it's your fault. But I also feel like it is your responsibility to give yourself the best leg up in making a decision, right? Because like who can we blame? Once we're adults, like it's kind of like you're thrown into the world and it's like figure all of this shit out. And I'm glad for people like the doctor that wrote this book because she's empowering people with the tools. And I'm making this video to try and do the same so that people do not have to keep going through the exact same stuff, right? So if you go back to it, right, you have to put an uncomfortable amount of intention into it. And I think that was the first thing that got me just like, wait, so I'm going to need to think through, am I getting to know this person? Am I trusting this person? Am I relying? Am I committing? Am I touching? Like a lot of times, what is happening is you get to know someone a bit, there's chemistry there, and you jump right into the touch. And then now you're kind of in a situation where you feel invested in this person, you feel like you've let them in, you feel like you've shown them parts of yourself that you don't show to everybody every day, but now you realize they're a dickhead. And it's like, oh, surprise, right? Like I read this and I was just like, I can no longer ever be surprised at how things go because it's like, wait, I didn't really know this person. And even if I, okay, let's say I know them, the second part of this trusting, did I trust them? Cool. Okay, I got to know them enough to trust them, but did I know I could rely on them? These are all connected things, but they're all very different, right? Knowing someone, trusting them, relying on them, and then committing, and then also touching, right? Like, and vice versa. They're all very, very different things that equally play a part in the entire picture, right? So, what this model is teaching you, like the basic principle, first of all, is you never want you never want one of the factors on the right to be on a higher level than the ones on the left because it progresses, right? You can see it in this diagram that I'm showing. It goes knowing, trusting. You can't put yourself in a situation where you're trusting someone more than you know them. Like why don't you go on the street and just give someone your address? You don't know them, so you can't trust them with that kind of information, right? Then to the next, same thing. You can't rely on someone more than you trust them, right? Trust needs to be up here. And then relying is like here. And you're slowly inching it up, right? And being aware of where are you with this person? Does this person act in a way that you feel like you can rely on them? Would you call this person if you had an emergency? Do you trust they will show up? then committing and relying, similar thing to, can you commit to this person, and are you committing on a level that, relying is up here, committing is here, right? It's like by knowing you can rely on someone and experiencing that, then you can decide, okay, I want to probably spend the rest of my life relying and trusting and getting to know this person even deeper because they've ticked these boxes, right? And then finally, touching. I know this one might be a touchy subject, no pun intended, right? I feel like where we're at as a society is one where we have really come to devalue physical intimacy, right? It's just like, yeah, like a lot of people don't no longer feel the need to constrain that in the name of liberation. And I understand some of that, but I've also come to realize that you can't pimp yourself out. You can't just give yourself to everybody. You can't just like, you wouldn't just let everybody use your phone. You wouldn't just let anybody use your shower. Why would you let anybody just touch you? Think of it, right? And so, if other than even like the moral and everything, like, we're in the point where like religion has declined, and just like how a lot of us look at stuff is a lot more open minded and open ended. But bring it down to, okay, if it's science, right? Touch is bonding. We are social creatures. When we touch, our body is releasing hormones, oxytocin, yada yada yada, and we bond to people. So why are you letting your body pretty much do something that you don't want over? Like, if I asked you clearly, do you want to be bonded to this person that you had a one night stand with or something, right? You might answer like hell no, but they're hot. But then why are you letting them touch them? Why are you letting them touch you? Because you are indirectly still doing that because you don't control your physiology, right? You don't control the hormonal response and all of that, right? So that's just like a bit on that part. But yeah, just back to the factors, right? The point is understanding this and having this framework in mind lets you bring your mind to the equation, because a lot of times we're driven by the heart, and the heart does have a part in this entire thing. Like, it's the heart, love is definitely in there, but you need to have both. And the heart is almost like something that just came to mind is like your heart is honestly lighter than your brain, just like mass wise, right? So imagine your heart will run faster than your mind, right? We tend to be very instinctual. Like, I've heard interesting stuff like, we might be picking up on pheromones in a room of people and just be attracted to someone based on like the smell of their armpits, and we don't even know that that is influencing how attracted we are to them. You hear stuff like how, women's taste in men changes based on if they're on birth control. Like, all of this is so complex that we don't even get what's going on, right? And that is the heart biological chemistry side of this, right? You meet someone and you feel something. That's important, right? That's good. But it's not all that matters. The situations where chemistry also is more slow burning, the situations where you will be put you'll be put with the option of going with someone who you have the chemistry right off, it's hit off, it's hot, it's everything, but the logical part of it makes no sense. This is not someone you can trust or you can rely on or commit to. You need to be in a position where you can decide what you want to do with that information versus, all right, my marker is, if I feel something, I'm going for it. If I feel something and you don't seem like a psychopath, I'm going for it. And the truth is, how many times do we even really know anything other than just like assumptions and wanting what we've imagined, right? And what I mean by that is, a key component of this, now that you have the framework to work with, is you need evidence, you need data, right? You need data to know that you know someone or to trust them. Normally, it's just like, yeah, I meet someone 5 times, right? Now I suddenly know them. No, that's not how it works. Maybe that's okay for the neighbor that you walk past and wave to, but it's like the person that you let into your heart, don't do that. Like, this is why people are in pain. This is why the process is just not successful, because we're treating it without any intent. We're treating it very just like leaving it to our imagination and to our fantasies. And then when we come back to earth, they're like, how did I miss that? How didn't I see this person was an asshole? How did I not see that this person and I were not a fit based on what I want in my life and who I know myself to be? All of that is because we don't slow down to look for the data points, right? It's like, okay, I know someone. Do I know what their values and morals are? Have I seen situations, and that's have I seen situations they've been that have shown? Because it's so easy to ask someone. Ask You can ask anybody and like, are you a good person? They're like, yeah, I am. Are you kind? Yeah, I am. But it's like you are hiring for someone. The same way you go to a job interview and they ask you questions about your experience, your history. They ask you about what you've done, you know, now they ask you, all these situational questions. So like, what would you do in this situation? Okay, this experience that you said you had, tell me more about it. And they ask more detailed questions. That is the level of, intention and detail you need to approach people so that you know if this person is who they say they are. Are they kind? They say they are kind. Cool. What situations have you seen them be kind in? And all of this is before you're deciding to put a ring on, or you're deciding to be like, okay, this is my partner. All this needs to happen before that. They need to show you, and you need to be looking out for situations where, are they showing you that they can be trusted? Are they showing you they can be relied on? It's like we go through stuff where, okay, you're getting to know someone and they've canceled on you multiple times and rescheduled. In what world can they take the box of reliance? Like, you can't rely on this person, but you just like, you can make excuses for whatever reason. You might think you're never gonna find someone better or anyone else, and you end up going with someone who's not reliable. Why are you surprised a year down that, oh, this person never shows up for me? Oh, they're never there when I need them. It's like the signs were always there, right? You meet someone who all they do is badmouth other people and tell everybody else's secrets, right? And you think you're not going to be the one someday. Jokes. So you need to actually get to that point of like granularity, detail, evidence is the key, right? Evidence is the key. When you're thinking, yes, you feel wonderful for this person, you feel so much for this person, cool. You have to take steps back and then start building an accurate picture of them, not the fantasy you have, not the not the everything that you imagine them to be and what you want. You need to put that on hold and you need to look at who this person is. Better yet, if you can cross reference that information in terms of, okay, you meet someone and your impression of them is that they're smart. Okay, what other source can I look at other than myself that can tell me, okay, you can go and find out this person has an education, right? They have a degree and you see that, you actually see that. And so, okay, this is another example. Of course, I'm definitely someone who doesn't think intelligence strictly to a degree, but it's one thing, right? Like it shows like, okay, you have to do some difficult things to learn, right? But you have to look for that information, and tangible, the more tangible the better. You want to look for, oh, have I seen this person show kindness? If I wanted to be kind, you don't just imagine someone is kind because they smile at you, and then you get in there and you find out, no, this person is actually has no empathy, doesn't care about anybody else, and you're like, how didn't I know this? Because you were not looking for it initially, right? So I think this can really change your entire experience, right? This is the litmus test, right? This is how you walk into a room of people, and imagine if everybody is a cup of clear fluid, right? Everyone looks like a cup of water. Some people are bleach. It looks like water, but you drink it and you probably will die. And you need to know the difference for yourself. No one's going to do that for you. And I'm just super glad that I came across this information, because I was winging it. I was winging it. Of course, like there were things I was looking for, but I'd never really tried to slow down. I took dating as a prize, and so just like, okay, once I've met someone that is ticking the boxes, I want things to go as fast as possible. Versus now I'm at a place where I slow things down. It's like, yeah, I like you, but there's no rush. They almost recommend like going into like actually slowing the process down into like 6 months. And why 6 months? Like 6 months tends to be enough time to get most people's masks to fall off. The mask of when they clearly want you and they're showing their best front. 6 months, people who are not serious will drop out. And that is important for you to do. It's important for you to hold out, right? I'm not saying, well, we're all adults. If you want to fuck first time, do it, whatever. But if you're serious and you're trying to just see where this is gonna go, if you want it long term, if that is what your goal is, what is 6 months in the grand scheme of things? What is it? And just these kinds of subtle changes in mindset make all the difference, right? It makes a difference in, okay, making sure that 6 months, stretch it out, gives me time to be calm and to be more level. I'm not rushing anywhere. I'm even, it's easier for me to consider multiple people. Slowing things down gives you the opportunity to actually be choosing. And that is what the RAM, R.A.M, whatever you want to call it, that's what the framework is going to give you, the ability to choose. A lot of times we think we choose, and we choose simply by, oh, I fell for this person and I text them every day and we're intimate and everything. But like, did you choose, like, who are you comparing this person to? Are you talking to other people as well? Do you have other benchmarks as well? You need to do that. The same way you go online when you're looking for a job, you need to look at all the opportunities. Don't just apply to one job, right? You need to sift through and find what works for you. And this makes it easier. This is almost like your LinkedIn. Okay, I guess Tinder will probably be more so a LinkedIn, but your manual one, like your criteria for searching through things, right? And your the gates that you have to make people walk through and scan them through to decide, all right, now you seem like you're someone that I can actually like imagine myself with because I have the evidence and you've shown me more times than not that you're trustworthy, you're reliable, you're committed, you have the capacity for all these things, and you also know how to handle me too, right? Like I would never discount like touch because we are the lines between spirit, physical, emotional, like it's all very blurred. It's not clear cut. So all of that is super important. But it also means don't let people skip the stages. Don't make people skip stages. Don't encourage them to do that. Slow things down and make sure you're making the assessments that you need, right? And I know it's hard, but I know you can do it. I believe in you. If I could do it, I believe you can do it. It just takes intent. And it takes you also realizing what is at stake, which is this process could be painful. And it's going to be painful. Life is pain. Like, and I don't want to sound like dark or anything. I'm pretty optimistic, but I think optimism also comes from like being informed too, which is there isn't anything that is easy. Being feeling alone isn't easy. But being in a relationship that feels like shit isn't easy either. And it's the same for this and the process of actually getting to know people. It is, do you want the pain of the effort it takes to vet people? Or do you want the pain of enduring hurt, the time wasted, and then recovering from a jerk because you didn't do your checks? Pick the pain. And so I ask you again, do you date for pain? Maybe. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait for you to subscribe to our channel. I'm sending you love and good energy. Till next time.